Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my Week 5 college football top 25. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to your channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. We're trying to grow the channel. We want to get to 500 subscribers by the end of the year, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're new, you will not regret it. So, this past week in college football, a few surprises. A lot of teams struggled, like the Auburns of the world, the Oklahomas against the world. Oklahoma's of the world. A lot of teams struggle to get to victories. There were two top 25 matchups, which I predicted both of them to wrong, actually. So we didn't do well in top 25 matchups at all, predicting those. I honestly feel like we're going to be probably around 500 after at counting up the wins and losses from this past week. I haven't done it yet, but I feel like we're going to be around 500. You look at this upcoming week, you have two top 10 matchups with Arkansas visiting Georgia. Arkansas got moved up all the way to number 8. We'll see how high I have them moving up. You also have 7 versus 9, Cincinnati and Notre Dame. You also have a top 12 matchup in Alabama and Ole Miss. I believe you have 19 versus 21 in the Big 12 with Baylor and Oklahoma teeing off. So, overall, I do think that it's going to be a great week of college football this upcoming Saturday and Friday because the Maryland game is Friday. So my team actually plays on Friday, the Maryland Terps. So we'll see what I think of Maryland since they went to pool last week. But anyways, let's get into it. The top 25. We'll go 25 through 1. I'll talk a little bit about each team. Number 25 is Wake Forest. Wake Forest is the only team in the ACC that I have in this pool, unless you want to count Notre Dame as part of the ACC, but I don't. Wake Forest, they're undefeated. Out of all the teams, they're the most convincing, in my opinion, in the ACC. If I had to predict the ACC championship right now, it would be Wake Forest versus Georgia Tech. I think Wake Forest is the best team in the Atlantic. Boston College, they have some injury issues, even though I think they have a shot as well. Clemson's not a top 25 team. I'll speak more about Clemson here in a minute, but Wake Forest number 25, I do think that they are the best team in the ACC, and I think they are the 25th best team in the country. Number 24 is Arizona State. I put them back in the poll. Arizona State, pretty convincing win against Colorado. They have a big game against UCLA. That game's probably going to determine who's in the top 25 the following week. You look at Arizona State. I think they're a good team. I do. They hiccup against BYU. BYU is a top 25 team. So I think Arizona State. They are the 24th best team in the country. I think they're right there, hovering around 25. So how things line up this week? I put them in number 24. Number 23 is Army. If you look at Army's resume, a lot of Power 5 teams struggle against some of their opponents. Meanwhile, Army beats some of those teams on their schedule convincingly. For example, Western Kentucky. Indiana survived Western Kentucky. Army dominated Western Kentucky. You look at Georgia State. Auburn survived Georgia State. Army dominated Georgia State. So I think Army is a top 25 team. It looks like they're going having that season like they did in 2018. I think they're the 23rd best team in the country. Number 22, Fresno State. Kind of a disappointing game against UNLV. The worst team in the Mountain West is UNLV. You look at Fresno State. They still got the win. I still think that they're going to win a lot of games in the Mountain West. We'll see what their schedule looks like down the road, but I think they are a top 25 team. I picked them at number 22. And number 21, a new team to the pool, UTSA. They're 4-0. They beat Memphis. Let's give some love to UTSA. They are a very good team, in my opinion. I think they have potential to be the best team in the Conference USA, even though I know UAB is going to have something to say about that. But I think UTSA, I think they can win 10 and 11 games. I really do. Offensively, they're pretty good. Defensively, they can make a play or two. So I like this UTSA team, UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio. I like them, so I'm gonna go ahead and I think they are a top 25 team. I put them 21. That might be a little bit too generous, but I put UTSA at number 21. I think they are a top 25 team. Now 20 through 15, number 20, San Diego State. A bit of a slow start against Towson State. At me being the Mariner, I am pulling for Towson State in that game, but They pulled away and won, I think, 48-21, if I'm not mistaken. San Diego State's a good team. If you look at their opponents that they beat, they're very quality wins. I put them up at 20. I do think they are the 20th best team in the country. Number 19 is Oklahoma State, a team that's new to the poll. They're undefeated. They beat Kansas State, who was 22 in the poll last week, so Kansas State's out, Oklahoma State in. You look at their other wins, Boise State, Tulsa, it looked pretty good against Ohio State. I know Tulsa, I think they won. I think they did win this past weekend, but um, I know Tulsa's won at 3, but Tulsa looked good against the Power Five opponents they played. He did. You look at Oklahoma State, big matchup against Baylor, win that game 5-0, and the way Oklahoma's looking looks like, and I know this is kind of not something I should be saying, but the way Oklahoma's looking, they look vulnerable. Oklahoma State could be Oklahoma. So we'll see what happens. I do think Oklahoma State's a top 25 team. I believe in Mike Gundy. Even though I was kind of saying this might be his last season at Oklahoma State down in Stillwater. But I, d- I like what I'm seeing. They're the 19th best team in the country, in my opinion. Number 18 is BYU. BYU blew out South Florida. Um, Listen, 3 Power 5 wins. You look at BYU. Um, in my opinion, I think BYU. And those talks about BYU, I know they're going to the Big 12. They could become a national brand. They're doing this NIL stuff really well. I don't know who they get this upcoming week, but I believe they still have 2 or 3 more Power 5 schools on the schedule. So BYU, number 18, I do think they're the 18th best team in the country. Number 17 is the Maryland Terps. I do think Maryland, once again, they took care of Kent State. Kent State, they've looked okay against the Power 5 teams they play. I do think they'll do well in MAC play. I do think that will turn out to be a respectable win by 3 touchdowns, 37-16. The West Virginia win looks very good right now. West Virginia 16-13 against Oklahoma and a loss there. You look at the other wins, Howard, okay. They beat Illinois on the road. Illinois lost another tight game, 13-9 to Purdue. So I think Maryland is a top 25 team. They were in the pool last week, so they kind of got moved up some, but they have a big game against Iowa Friday night, which I cannot wait for. I'm going to be honest, as a Maryland fan, I do think we lose this game, but I think Maryland, I actually think this team's a good team. I really do. I know Mike Locksley wants this team to be more disciplined, but I do think this team's a good team. The Maryland Terps ranked number 17 in the Week 5 McD Sports 4 poll. Number 16 is Michigan State. Yeah, I know it wasn't impressive against Nebraska. Nebraska has looked good these past 2 weeks. I think Nebraska's problem is that they don't have a quarterback. Adrian Martinez is terrible. But you gotta give Scott Frost credit. The past 2 weeks, these 2 weeks are the most competitive weeks I've seen Nebraska look. Um, and Michigan State, they moved up kind of because of teams falling out and stuff. But Michigan State, in my opinion, they are a top 25 team. I put them on number 16. I think they are better than. I do think that they could beat any team that's behind them on a neutral field. I will pick them to win. So that's why they'll pin at number 16. I got Michigan State at number 16, and they have some big games coming down the road. Michigan State does. Now your top 15. Number 15 is Coastal Carolina, 53-3 over UMass. I know it's UMass, but very impressive win. They have another, I think, a game that they're going to blow out their opponent in UL Monroe this upcoming week as well. They still have Appalachian State on the schedule. I know that. And if they're in the championship game, they'll probably get Louisiana out of there. Georgia State's looked impressive against Auburn, so they have that game as well. But Coastal Carolina, 15. I don't know if they're going to get much higher than 15 in my poll because they do start getting into the Sun Belt play. But Coastal Carolina, I think, is a very good team. I think they are a top 25 team. So I picked, and the way they're playing, they're looking really good, very convincing. Even though people would say the Buffalo game was a close game, I told you guys that was going to be a close game. Um, so number 15 for Coastal Carolina. Number 14 is Michigan. Yeah, I know it's 20-13 against Rutgers. Rutgers is pretty good. Rutgers is going to win a few more games this year. They have a good shot to get to bowl eligibility. You look at Michigan. It was 20-3 at halftime. I have not watched a condensed game of this one yet, but I do think I'm gonna kind of lean on that Michigan just played around, toyed around a little bit in the second half. Even though I'm not the way from what I was reading, I'm not absolutely sure if that happened. They have a big game against Wisconsin on the road. That I do think they have a potential of losing. So we'll see what happens. But Michigan, they'll continue being undefeated. I told you guys this was a top 25 team coming into the season, and they're just moving up the rankings. Number 14, Michigan. Number 13, Texas A&M. Listen, you guys lost to a better team. That's what happened. I dropped you guys 5 spots. You guys gotta get that quarterback healthy and Haynes King because Zaza Kalada or Kalida, whatever his last name is, or Zach Kalada. I always call him Zaza for some reason. Zach Kalada. He's not that good at all. He doesn't have much of an arm. Um, Defensively, I think A&M is pretty good. I think the running game's pretty good. It's just quarterback is a bit of a question right now. You have that big game against Alabama in a few weeks. Not this week, but the following week. So that's gonna be a huge game at home. It's gonna be the CBS night game. So in my opinion, I do think that A&M, I do think they're a top 15 team. I put them up at 13, but I do think they need to figure out quarterback a little bit. Number 12, Florida. Yeah, I moved Florida down a spot. I did. And that's only because of how the teams were moving around and stuff. I still think Florida's a top 15 team at worst. They're possibly a top 10 team. Kind of a slow start against Tennessee, but they put it together in the second half, pulled away. I believe the final was 31-14. So you look at Florida. Um, they I forget who they face next week, this upcoming Saturday, but they have LSU coming down the pipe. They have Georgia obviously coming down the pipe. So oh yeah, they face Kentucky. They face an undefeated Kentucky team. So we'll see what happens in that game. But they do have a few other games coming down the pipe. We'll see what happens. But Florida, I do think they're a top 15 team. I put them at number 12. Number 11 is Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a very good team. I am seriously considering picking Ole Miss to be Alabama. I'm haven't really thought it through. I haven't heard the prediction video, which is gonna be filmed on Tuesday night. I'm filming this Sunday night, but in my opinion, Ole Miss I think could score against anybody, and if they could at least get 30 on Alabama or around there, I think they have a good shot. This defense looks a lot better for Ole Miss. Uh, as I said during the post game of the Maryland game, I was talking about the SEC West race. I think it's a 3-team race. A 4-team race between Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. And in my opinion, it would not surprise me if Ole Miss comes out of those four because of how high powered this offense is and how good this defense is actually looking. So, I honestly think Ole Miss is a top 10 team. I just couldn't really justify paying them past 11. But Ole Miss, number 11, if they could beat Bama, watch out. And I am seriously considering pulling the trigger on the upset on that. Number 10, is Notre Dame. I moved them up 2 spots after a blowout win against Wisconsin. Very good win for Notre Dame. I still think they have 2 losses at the minimum coming on the schedule, including this upcoming Saturday. If you want a bit of a preview of the prediction video, but Notre Dame. I mean, listen, Pine, the backup quarterback, he came in and played lights out. This defense got a few pick sixes late in the game as well to really pull away. But in my opinion, I think Notre Dame, I think they're right around that 10 spot, so that's why I put them right at 10. They moved up 2 spots, but Notre Dame, in my opinion, they're a very good team. I don't think they're a college football playoff contender, but I do think they're a really good team. At number 9, Arkansas. This is the highest I was able to move them up. The AP moved them up all the way up to 8. I moved them up to 9. That was the highest I was able to move them up. This is a top 10 team when healthy. I hope KJ Jefferson could give it a go against Georgia. And he's at least 80 to 85%. The way they run this offense, it just keeps the defenses off balance. This defense for Arkansas is really good. And listen, I'll come out and say right now, the head coach Sam Pittman for Arkansas. Listen, I wasn't overly impressed with his press conference. I didn't think it was gonna be that good of a hire. there at Arkansas because just based off of one press conference. I was wrong. What a great hire there. What a great turnaround for Arkansas. I mean, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, Arkansas in 2018 and 2019 when Chad Morris was the head coach, Arkansas was losing teams like North Texas, getting blown out by North Texas. So, uh, in my opinion, I think Arkansas. I think they are a top 10 team. I picked them at number 9. I would have moved them up higher, but I just couldn't justify moving them up any higher than 9. If they could go into Georgia, and by the way, I'm saying this right now, if you could bet, I would take Arkansas plus 19 in a heartbeat. That is going to be a 4-quarter game in my opinion, and in my opinion, if Arkansas could go and find a way to beat Georgia, it's going to be pretty tough to keep them outside the top 5 in my opinion. So Arkansas number 9, and number 8, Penn State. I need one more game with Penn State. I forget who they play. I believe it's Indiana. If they could beat Indiana convincingly, I'll move them up in the top 5. I know people are very high on Penn State right now. I just need one more game. I wasn't impressed with the game against Villanova. Kind of got off to a slow start. Then they got to 38-3, but they gave up 2 backdoor touchdowns basically to make a 38-17 victory for Penn State. Just give me one more week with them. I know compared to a lot of other polls, they have them in the top 5. I mean, they just need to show me a little bit more. I think they're the 8th best team in the country. Number 7, Oklahoma. Yeah, I moved them down a few spots. Oklahoma, in my opinion, I mean, they don't have much of a running game. Defensively, I actually think they're better defensively than what they have been in some previous years. But you look at Oklahoma, in my opinion, I think they have a loss or 2 coming on their schedule. I mean, right now, if you told me Oklahoma, Texas, I'm picking Texas to beat Oklahoma. I think Kansas State has a shot to beat Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma State has a shot to beat Oklahoma. Iowa State obviously has a shot to beat Oklahoma. So I think there's a loss or 2 coming on that schedule. I still think they are a top 10 team. They need to offensively they need to be better though, and I think Lincoln Riley will get this offense better. They just need to be better offensively. And number 6, Cincinnati. I did move them down one spot. They didn't play a game. They have a big game against Notre Dame. Win that game convincingly. It's gonna be kind of tough to keep Cincinnati outside of the playoff conversation. I mean, at worst you're gonna have them at 5. I mean, they're the best power. They're the best Group of 5 team, and they could be a bunch of Power 5 teams. Number 5, Iowa. Yeah, I know it was disappointing against the Colorado State Rams, but that's kind of Iowa's game. They play defense. The offense isn't really that good. I did move them down, I think, one spot, but they have a big game against Maryland. If they could go in and beat Maryland, they'll be fine. If they can't, yeah, there's question marks there. But I think defensively, Iowa's a really good team. I think offensively, there's question marks, but I think the defense makes this team a top 10 team. With the resume so far, I think Iowa's number 5. Number 4 is Ohio State. Yeah, you could tell me how bad Ohio State is. I mean, they lost to the team that's number 3, basically Oregon, by a touchdown. That's basically what happened. I know Oregon looked like the better team on the field. That's why they're ranked ahead of Ohio State. But you look at Ohio State, they blew out Akron. Uh, they go ahead and face Rutgers. I think they're gonna beat Rutgers by 2-3 touchdowns. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Now, Grant, I do think there's some teams on the schedule that they can lose to, absolutely. But if my gut tells me Ohio State is still gonna be 11-1 going into the Big Ten championship game, probably win that, go 12-1 and get into the playoffs. They looked very good with the backup quarterback. So I still think they're a top 5 team. I really do. I didn't really panic so much when they lost to Oregon. I mean, the lowest they've been in my poll was 7 after they lost to Oregon when they were number 3. So, and I moved them down to 7. So they moved back up to 4. I do think they're the 4th best team in the country. If I had to pick Ohio State versus Iowa right now, I'm picking Ohio State on neutral field in the Big Ten championship game. And then number 3, Oregon. They took care of business against Arizona, the worst team in Power 5. Maybe their win wasn't impressive enough, unlike number 2 or number 1's wins this past weekend. But I do think Oregon is the third best team in the country, and then number two is Georgia. I mean, my God, let's just say this. I feel bad if you're a Vandy fan. Vandy is a long way away, I think, just to being bowl eligible. So pitch a shutout 62 nothing. It was 35 nothing at the end of the first half. A lot of people are going to say that Alabama, who's my number one team, should be it should be number one Georgia, number two Alabama. If you look at the AP poll, Georgia only got four first place votes. I kind of lean to agree with that. I didn't look at the AP poll before making this poll, but I mean, in my opinion, I still think on a neutral field, let's say in the SEC championship game, I'm taking Bama over Georgia right now, because I just think Bama could just do a little bit more offensively than Georgia. So, and I trust Saban more. But that's my top 25 right there. Teams I were left out. Number 10, Clemson. Yeah, I thought about Clemson and 13, Wisconsin. They're kind of in the same boat. I thought about going 24, Clemson, 25, Wisconsin, because I still think both of these teams have great potential to at least be a top 25 team. I just couldn't justify it. There's no way the way Clemson's offense looks, I can sit there and justify keeping them in the top 25. There's no way the Wisconsin quarterback, Graham Mertz, who by the way is not that good, the way he looks, there's no way I could justify Wisconsin being in the top 25 with 2 losses and Clemson with 2 losses. I do think these teams will get back in the top 25 at some point, especially Wisconsin, even though I do think it's going to be an uphill battle to go ahead and come out the Big Ten West, even though, to be honest, it kind of looks open in the Big Ten West because Iowa, I think, is kind of challenged offensively. And then outside of that, I mean, look around. Minnesota lost to Bowling Green. Illinois is nowhere there yet. Purdue, I mean, maybe. Nebraska, maybe. But, I mean, at the end of the day, um, and Northwestern. I don't think so, but anyways, look at Wisconsin. I think they'll be back in the top 25 pool at some point. If they could beat Michigan and look good in another game or two, they'll easily be back in the top 25. Look at Clemson, as I said. If Clemson's offense continues playing like the way they are, I don't know if they're going to be back in the top 25. I mean, I think Wake Forest is coming out of the ACC Atlantic at this point. I think Clemson's going to lose this week to Boston College. I think they'll lose to Wake, but I think they'll beat everybody else on the schedule. But you look at Clemson, it's not good. It is not. I mean, maybe Georgia broke them. That's the argument I'm kind of hearing. Some people are saying Tony Elliott is the issue. I don't. I mean, Tony Elliott was calling the plays last year for Trevor Lawrence, so I mean, I don't know what the issue is there at Clemson, but it's not good at Clemson. 15 Iowa State. What else? I mean, I guess I can't really say much because Baylor's ranked at this point undefeated, but I thought for sure Iowa State would go in there and cover. I mean, you look at in my opinion, I wasn't that high on Baylor, and give credit to Baylor, they got the win of 4-0. They're ranked 21, but I mean, Iowa State. I do think Iowa State will be back in this pool at some point, but man, that is not a. I mean, I don't know what to say about Iowa State. I really don't. It came down to a 2-point try. They didn't get it. 17 North Carolina. They lost to the team that I think is going to come out of the ACC Coastal Division, Georgia Tech, 45-22. So, yeah, 17 game blown out like that. Your game dropped out of the poll. I still think North Carolina is going to at least get to 7-8 wins, though. I mean, you look at the rest of the ACC Coastal leagues. They lost to Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech. I do think they go ahead, beat Duke. They'll beat Miami. They'll find a way to beat Virginia, in my opinion. Actually, they already beat Virginia, so they're 1-2 in the ACC. They still have some non-conference games coming up. I think North Carolina. I mean, the one game is Notre Dame. We'll see what happens that game, but I think North Carolina will at least still get to a bowl game. I don't know if they're a top 25 team, but that was an embarrassing loss to Georgia Tech. There's no way around it. And then 22 Kansas State. Kansas State's not a bad team. They lost what 31-20 to Oklahoma State on the road. I mean, that game was whoever won that game was going to be in the top 25, and whoever didn't was going to be dropped out. And Kansas State lost. They were ranked 22. There's several opportunities for Kansas State. I still think they're a good team, but I had dropped them out with the loss at number 22. So those are the 5 teams that got dropped out. Comment down below. Tell me your top 25. I always like hearing from y'all. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to your channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. We're trying to grow the channel, so go ahead and do that. This is McD the Beast signing off.